I used to be producing dubstep as Headhunter, and now I'm producing music as Addison Groove. The Headhunter stuff was very much dubstep, but the Addison Groove stuff is kind of like, well, what is it? That's what I like about it. I suppose I've developed a bit of a different style. Things nowadays have gone a bit more minimal, a bit more slower, a bit more experimental as well. As Headhunter, my stuff was very active between 2006 to 2010. We put the first release out, and I kind of got a phone call shortly after from Tempa to say, yo, we want you to release on our label. They were the biggest label in dubstep at the time. We did a couple of 12 inches, a couple of EPs and an album. My approach to kind of making that style of music was to have another edge to whatever I was doing. So I took the dubstep style, but had techno influence in there, or the most obvious one would be juke music. When I discovered that stuff on YouTube back in 2008, I was like, this is how I want to incorporate this style into my music, you know? So I did, and I made the Footcrab track, which was kind of like heavily juke inspired, but it was also heavily dubstep inspired. And what the outcome was something in between. I think anyway. It's not quite a dubstep track, it's not quite a juke track. I used to go around DJing places, and people would always tell me what they would mix Footcrab with, because they like discovered a new mix. They were like, oh, Footcrab goes well with this Benga track, or Footcrab goes well with this old house track, or this Chicago track. And it's so amazing to hear these things of the various genres. My track is mixing well with all these tracks. I've seen the whole story from its beginning to it sitting on my hard drive for 6 months, no one taking any notice of it. Then it gets pushed a bit more, and people start emailing me. Then Loafer picks it up. The Swamp81 release of that track just made it go even bigger.
Let's get into some real bad things. Let's get into some real bad things. Let's get into some real bad things. Let's get into some real.
I can just set the 808 up in my studio and have it running in sync with a bunch of keyboards that I have and into the mixer and delays. I can just spend about an hour just playing around with all these different toys, and if something good comes out of it, all I have to do is just click record and it will record them individually. But that's when I'm just jamming around. I'm not really looking to make a track. I'm just looking to play around. And now you'll notice on this thing it has a MIDI input. This is a retrofit. It's been modified essentially, and it costs a bit more. But what I can now do is trigger a sequencer like Ableton or Logic, and it will play the drum machine from within the sequencer. So I can set a BPM and it will trigger it. Open up Logic, then I'll open up Ableton. That's when I start a tune. And basically I've got an auto load set, so every track in Ableton is rewired into Logic on an auxiliary track. So I'm not spending any time doing any wiring. And then I start dragging sounds into Ableton, go back, do some sequences with the sounds, then go into Logic and mix the sounds down. And then once I start mixing the sounds down, I can start feeling the space of a sound. And then I'll reduce stuff, put stuff in, and rearrange stuff again. So even though I'll make something in like 20 minutes, that's probably not what the song's going to sound like. It's just me to get a sonic idea of how a tom drum can work with a bass drum and a hi-hat can work with a vocal. And I can use those 4 elements and then keep rearranging them until I've got something I'm happy with. When I play live in the EU or the UK, I play with a mixing desk. I don't use turntables. So I use like a big 24, 16 channel desk with my drum machine and Ableton. And while I'm coming over here, I'm actually now using turntables, DJ Mixer, 808 and Tractor. Now I've got this new controller called an F1. It's made by Native Instruments. I love it. It's so good. I've been able to record my tracks as stems, and all I have to do is just drag into a remix deck and then labeled out on this controller, and I can just play the 808 and these samples on top, and it's kind of like live remixing. But the thing I like about it the most is I could do this and then play a record, and everything becomes a hybrid between a live set and a DJ set. No software I've seen yet really does that well until I started using Tractor. I haven't got it locked, but I've definitely got it workable, and I know that for the rest of this tour, it's just going to build and build. I'm excited about it. It's really, really cool to be excited about something like that. I was very lucky, man, because when I was around 15 years old, I met a lot of people in Bristol in the drum and bass scene. For example, Koshin, Tekic, and some other guys called Ice Minus. They were on the Moving Shadow label. And I used to go to their house and I would see them using software. Now, I was never like, show me how to do this, but I would listen to a song and watch the arrangement. I think that accounts for a lot. Just being stood there in the studio while someone's playing a song and watching it go and just looking at what plugins they're using. Going, oh right, they're using EQ there, they're getting rid of that frequency, they're boosting that frequency, they're distorting that sound, they're making all these interesting noises. That accounts for a lot. Just go and watch other people how they do it, because it'll give you more inspiration to do your own thing on top of what you're learning. I listen to as much music as possible. I usually spend 1 week listening to an album and then I'll move on to another one. Last week I've been listening to Bob Marley. The week before that I was listening to a guy called Bonga, and he's an African folk musician. And then probably the week before that I was listening to someone like, I don't know, Two Live Crew or something. So I love music so much that I continue to seek out new music, because I know there's so much music out there that I've never heard. This is fantastic, you've got everything here. You know, there's so many people here with the same kind of mindset. I can tell all the students earlier, they're at that stage where they're just eager to learn more, and it's so healthy. So it's a great kind of hub for all these people. You're probably going to get collaborations happening here, people learning things from other people, and hopefully the outcomes are careers for some people. Yeah.